Imagine you're in a time machine to 1950. Check out the difference between the world we live in 2022. The margin is really big. A question keeps popping up in my head. It's been going on for a long time. Why don't men approach women anymore? It's just not happening like it was in the 1950s when you had no choice but to cold approach women. Back in the 1950s, there was no cell phone, internet, and even social media. Absolutely nothing like that back in the day. You either approached the woman directly or met with her father at the church and lived very close to her, preferably in the same community. Now you can just sit on your couch and hop on a dating site to meet women. No sir. It took real work back then to get a woman and women unlimited options and reach men all over the world. All she had were the guys in her community to choose from or a Prince Charming that traveled to her small town, and she fell in love with him. Quite simple, isn't it? More men would man up and approach women because of the lack of communication like we have today. He wasn't sure if he would see the woman again. The woman might be his future wife, who knows? So he had to shoot his shot. But when you look at the modern time, we have social media and it's accessible by literally everyone. We feel as though we're connected, but in truth, we're disconnected more than ever before, to the point where people don't physically speak to other people and men don't approach women anymore. I think it is worth being a topic on its own. We need to know what happened and what will happen if this continues. So why are men approaching women? First, you need to understand men. Men usually assess risks and consequences in a situation before taking an action. To prove this, look at men's approach to marriages. They look at the risks with rewards of marriages and what they stand to lose if the marriage goes south and the woman wants a divorce. The same thing applies to approaching women. Women have made the process so risky and unrewarding. First off, men already feared rejection and humiliation from women, so for a man to risk getting turned down, made fun of, or labeled a creep and still approach means he thinks the outcome is worth it. But in this society we live in, women view the average man that they don't want as predators, creeps, sexual assaulters, and rapists. Which same man would still want to approach a woman? If the average man were to approach the average woman respectfully to start a conversation, he would get humiliated by that woman more often than not. I've seen lots of videos about men trying to talk to a woman without being disrespectful or coming off as creepy, and she straight up makes a fool out of him. The woman recorded the interaction while spinning the narrative that he was a creep and uploaded it to social media for laughs and attention. I'm sitting here looking at that video and asking why on earth would I want to approach a woman these days? To understand why this is happening, we need to understand that different men get different treatments from women. Now I know you might be lost on that one, so I'm going to explain to you what this means. I want you guys to look back at times in your own life when you were approached by someone who was begging you for money or by a homeless person who looked dirty. Immediately you went on the defensive to not talk to the person or give them anything. The same applies to women, but it's worse nowadays than in the previous century. Women naturally have to be extra careful out in the world because they could be taken by a man against their will at any moment, but here's the problem. A woman out in a public setting with a bunch of people around her, safe to a degree, still publicly humiliates a man just for talking to her. It is safe to assume that modern women don't respect men anymore. If a woman is notorious for disrespecting the average and below average men who approach her, do you think she would do the same thing to Jeff Bezos? Of course not. Jeff Bezos is a billionaire who is popularly known and possesses power, authority, and status. That woman would not dare talk down or humiliate a man who was clearly better than she could ever be. So as you can see, at the end of the day, it all boils down to a man's status and perceived value based on how he looks, talks, and approaches the woman. A woman will treat different men differently based on how she perceives that man, and if she doesn't see the man as better than her, then she will treat him like trash. On the flip side, if she perceives another man as better than her, she will treat that man like a king. To further understand this, look at the interaction between her and her boss versus the janitor. Right off the bat, we know who would not be disrespected if they were to approach her. So I'm saying all this for you to understand that the modern woman no longer respects men, and I think that most men already know this and have decided to opt out of talking to these women. They have seen how women treat other men who look similar to them versus the high-value men, and men are deciding to walk away entirely. Men have also realized that women's attitudes towards them are only getting worse and will continue to get worse, and they are no longer going for that biz. Men are seeing that whenever they approach women, it's a negative experience, and they risk their reputation and possibly freedom. I don't know if you know that men have had the police called on them just because they approached a woman who didn't like them, so why the hell would men risk all of that and get absolutely nothing in return? This is where we are today when men have to assess the risks of approaching a woman and come to realize that it's just not worth it. Unlike the women in the 90s who were not this out of order just for a man wanting to start a conversation with them. Now that we have covered that point, we can all agree that modern women's attitude toward men sucks. Let's see whether or not modern women are even approachable. To be approached, you have to look approachable or people will tag you as a creepy man if you approach a woman. Modern women today walk around like they have something stuck up in their rear end, and then we have to experience seeing a woman that you liked and how she made up her face looking like the devil himself made you not want to go and talk to that woman. The art of smiling and looking pleasant in public is lost by modern women today because almost all of them are walking around with a face screaming, "Do you want TALK to me?" And quite frankly, it either scares men away or turns them off. Men will likely not approach a woman who looks like she doesn't want anyone talking to her, especially a man. So men do not approach these types of women, and when you try to tell a woman that she must smile, society sees you as a misogynist. If society doesn't care about my sincere opinions as a man, and I know that they don't, why would I take unnecessary risks being ridiculed despite knowing the fact that society doesn't care about me? So men have decided not to approach women. If you see a guy that puts on an angry face all the time like at any moment he could get violent, would you want to have a conversation with him? That's how men see most women. A man sees a woman he likes and wants to start a conversation with her, and she looks cold and closed off. He will assume she doesn't want to talk to anyone, and he wouldn't want to approach her. That is how important smiling and looking inviting with an open body language is, but this is lost on modern women, and they aren't willing to change. So likewise, men are just not going to approach them, and that's that. And when men don't approach, they complain that men are not approaching them. So ladies, you have two choices. Either you give me signals that you're approachable, or you put up an ideal and to be approached look, and men will avoid you like the plague. The choice is yours, ladies. I care less about any choice you make. The last reason I believe men are no longer approaching women is that men have decided that women in relationships are not even worth it anymore. Men are sick and tired of the BS, so why on earth would they want to approach women? Modern women are cheating on men more than ever. Modern women are leaving relationships more than ever. They keep treating men worse and worse every day. At the end of the day, what I want is her legs over my shoulders, so why the hell would I waste my time approaching women? Can you see what I mean? Tap the thumbs up button and comment saying you subscribed, and I will personally reply to your comments. Also, comment down below if you stopped approaching women. I'm curious to know how many guys aren't going for that anymore. Men, remember this, it's not worth it. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Take care.